And you can now talk to the people who happen to be watching the pre-show. You have anything to say to them, Terry?
Hi, everybody, and welcome to our wonderful evening show. We're glad that you tuned in. Talk about everything with Terry. This is a new show, and I'm excited to present it to you, and I hope you enjoy it. And I'd like to introduce my special guest, Frank Maraschiello. Here he is.
Hello?
Okay, so Twitch has accepted the stream. YouTube has accepted the stream, and Facebook has accepted the stream. Now that they've accepted it, they will give me a link, and I will send it to both of you. Okay. They have given me the link. Now I'm going to send it to you. Let me see if I have Frank's. What's your favorite way to receive the information, Frank?
If you want to send it to my phone.
Like a regular text message?
Yeah, and then I can just distribute it from there.
Let's see if you're in my database. You're not. So you just have to actually give me the number.
Okay. 716
716
572
572
2947.
2947.
Then I have a question for you, Richard.
Sure. Let's hear it.
Oh. Could people call in and ask questions? Like, let's say Frank's talking about this stuff, these vintage items. Can they call in and just ask a question?
Yes.
Have him answer it? How's that done?
You have to use the computer next to you,
Ooh.
and you have to press a button when they call in. Can you handle that?
Can we change seats with Frank?
Yeah, you can change seats with Frank. You want to do that?
I don't know. Are you good?
If somebody calls, I just.
You have to press the accept call button.
Okay. I'll try.
It's the-
All right, go
Frank,
ahead.
you don't mind?
No.
Okay, switch seats. It's the first time in the history of Think Twice Radio this has happened.
We're going to have to think 3 times. Right?
So it's really easy to do, right? Just press a button. That's what they all say.
I know it.
So easy to do.
I don't want to mess up your.
So Frank, now you'll have control of the overhead camera on what gets shown. So if you want to like put that little,
These over there, Frank.
No, they're still.
maybe you could put the pet rock in the zone over your head camera.
So where this is?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can put anything in there you want.
Yeah, because then it would. Terry, give me the pet rock, and we'll put it here. And then we can. So we'll have.
And you can open it up and show the people the inside.
Want anything else?
No, we'll put it like this.
There you go.
And then maybe move the smiley face over a little so he's.
There you go.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Let me adjust the cameras. And I sent you the link to your phone, Frank.
Okay.
And of course, you'll have to adjust the volume to your hearing.
So it's the orange one?
Yeah, you're orange, and Terry's going to be red.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So where do I look on the computer here?
I'll set it up for you.
Okay.
Testing 1, 2. Ooh.
Terry, should I send you the link?
You'll send it to both of us, right?
Okay, I'll send it to you too.
Yes, please. I wanted my son to tune in, so hopefully.
Okay, it has been sent to you, Terry. Okay, now we have to test the sound. So I do that from here. We have to test the
Frank, now if I want to send this link to my son,
Just forward it. Tap on it.
okay,
Hold down.
tap, hold it down.
It'll say forward. Click on that. And then go to your son.
I don't see forward, Frank. Let me see. Oh, hold on, I'm getting it.
Did it work?
I'm not sure how to tell.
all right. So you see what? Now you see the red button,
Okay.
and then you see the green button.
Yep.
Green means answer the call, red means hang up. And you gotta use the mouse to do it, unfortunately.
Okay, so
You press with your lower, let's see, your lower left is your push the button. There you go.
hi, Richard.
Okay. Let me-
Welcome to the show. Terry doesn't know how to press the buttons right, so I guess I got elected to answer the questions here.
So this is going to be the protocol then.
Okay.
Okay.
and then
So
I
we
hang
got
up.
to tell the viewers now that they can call in.
Okay.
So I will put that in. Yeah,
and then
you
how
hit-
do I hang up on you?
You hang up on me by pressing the red button, which is like the phone symbol pointing down.
I don't see it.
I hung up ahead of you.
Oh, you hung up? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Is that difficult to do, pressing
No.
button? So they
we
can
can do
call in and ask a question and
Yeah, that's right. So now let's put that up on the screen. Okay, no, we don't want that. We want text.
Starting in a minute.
Here it is. And we adjust the text. Let's see. Call the studio. Let's see. Phone us with questions or comments. 202. Oh, we got to put the area code in. 716 202 8430. Phone us with questions or comments. Then we'll put this right across the bottom of it, like that. How's that look, Terry?
very nice.
Okay.
So if they call in, then Frank can answer.
Frank's in charge of the soundboard there. Okay, so I think we're ready to go on the air. Are you ready to actually go on the air?
Just give me 1 second. I'm just.
Now, Richard, if I want to look into the camera, just look straight ahead to VIN 3.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, now. Do you see the timer on the screen? I'll put it up higher so you can see it.
Yes.
When that says on the air, you are on the air, okay?
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Hello, everybody. My name is Terry Licata Bronstein, and I'm here to present you with Talk About Everything with Terry. And I'm so excited the holidays are here. I bet you're all getting ready to cook those big dinners and have family and friends over. I am too, but they go so fast. They're here and then gone the next day. So enjoy them, stay well, and be careful on the roads. Anyway, today I have a special guest. This gentleman was here a few months ago and talked about his book. His name is Frank Maraschiello. His book is wonderful, Dress Jeans, Disco, and Dating. And I read it, and I normally can't stay with a book long, but I couldn't put it down. It's just wonderful. It's about his Italian heritage, his family, his friends, and also the events in his life as a child. And I think you're going to really enjoy the show. and you can call in and ask us questions and ask Frank questions, and we'd be more than happy to answer them for you. So sit back, relax, and let's enjoy the show. Hi, Frank.
Hi, Terry.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. We're happy to have you
Yeah,
here. This
thank
is
you.
exciting. Now, let's just start from the very beginning. You are a retired teacher.
Yes.
So tell me just briefly about that, because I have lots of questions.
Well, I was a teacher in the Buffalo School District for 23 years. Taught sixth grade history most of the time. Also taught literature and ELA on different levels, fifth and sixth grade kids for that. It was an experience. Teaching in Buffalo is you got to really love teaching to stick it out once you start there. So, but it's worth it because I guess I was there for the right reason. I really love the kids and tried to help them, and I hope I did help a bunch of them. So.
I can understand where you're coming from. I was a teacher also for many, many years. What schools did you attend?
What schools? I went to a tiny Catholic grammar school called Coronation on DeWitt Street. In fact, Terry and I had the same kindergarten teacher.
I couldn't believe that when that
Mrs.
happened.
Sally. She mentioned that when she had read the book, and there was one line in there about Mrs. Sally being my kindergarten teacher. And when Terry called me, I think that was the first thing you said to me. I can't believe it. We had the same kindergarten teacher, but she was an amazing lady. Yes, and then I went to Cardinal Doherty High School for 3 years until it closed, and I finished high school at Lafayette High School, and then I went to Medaille College, got my 2 undergraduate degrees from there and my master's degree from there.
Very nice.
Master's in education. So
Yeah, I don't know of any other person that had Mrs. Sally other than you. So that made me feel real good.
there's probably thousands of people out there that had Mrs. Sally.
Your father was a well-known entertainer in the Buffalo area. In fact, I listened to a tape that you played for me, and I could have swore it was Frank Sinatra. He was wonderful, sounded just like Sinatra. What influence, beside the obvious, did he have on you in your life?
Well, my dad was that person that got so close to making it, whatever making it means. In 1953, he won a national singing contest called The Voices of Tomorrow, and it was similar to winning, The Voice or American Idol. He traveled to Boston to compete there, and he won it. Came back to Buffalo, and he wanted to. The opportunities in Buffalo were very limited, so he decided to move to New York City, and he started out selling Hoover vacuum cleaners door to door while he was going to auditions. He eventually started making it into small off-Broadway shows, and he was cast in an unknown stage adaptation of West Side Story before anyone ever heard of it, and he was the lead in that, in the off-Broadway production. He made a couple of small. He was singing constantly. He really wanted to be an opera singer, and he made it to Carnegie Hall. He sang there. He had. That's the tape you heard,
Yes.
him singing with a full orchestra. And he stayed with the West Side Story until they started to film the movie. And my father was not a very tall guy. He was only about 5'5", 5'5.5", he always would say. And as they were casting for the movie, all the girls that they were bringing in to play the lead were all taller than him. And they just said, "You're too short." And they tried putting him in elevator shoes. And that didn't work. So they ended up picking someone else. He didn't give up. He kept playing and singing around New York. And in 1959, he married my mom. And the deal was if my mother became pregnant, that they would move back to Buffalo. So in 1962, my mother was pregnant with me, and we moved back. They moved back to Buffalo, and I was born in July of '62. And my father moved back. He never looked back, but he continued to sing everywhere in Buffalo. Sang at the Italian Festival for 30 years. The first night, he sang with the big bands. He sang at all the popular night spots, the Three Coins, the Executive, Salvatore's, all the places that the classic. He was a crooner singing the Frank Sinatra songs, and me growing up with that music around me all the time. My father was constantly playing the piano, singing. I would go with him to set up for his wherever he was playing that night or that weekend, and I was fascinated by the singing and the dancing. Some of my uncles were in vaudeville. They were dancers. They were one of them was a comedian. My Uncle Paul was a tap dancer whose partner was Mr. Bojangles. So that song, Mr. Bojangles, that's a real person. His name was Bill, and my uncle tap danced with him. So, I guess music and entertainment was in my blood. My father, you never knew who was going to be at the house when I came home. Entertainers were there, singers, dancers, piano players, and that's what I grew up with. So lots of entertainment. My father had more Sinatra albums than anyone I ever met. That was constantly being played when I was a kid. I used to call it the Sinatra Shrine, and I wrote about that in the book, that you weren't allowed to go near any of his Sinatra records. And, it was just I grew up in a house that was filled with music and filled with creative people. My father he also became a photographer for the Courier Express. He painted, he drew, he did all sorts of things like that. And he stressed to me that I had to learn how to read and write. And that was very important to him. And I think it's because both of his parents, when they came from Italy, were unable to speak. They were unable to speak English, number one, and that neither one of them ever went to school. So it was a big thing to him to make sure that I, along with my brother, got a very good education, that we took school seriously. I, as a kid, did not like reading books. They just didn't interest me. So the deal I made with my father was I was going to read the newspaper. So when I came home from school, I did my homework, and then I sat in the red chair in the living room, and I read the newspaper from cover to the front cover to the back cover. And that's really how I learned to read. And I eventually, when I was in grammar school, I was reading on the college level, and the nuns at my school didn't know what to do with me because I was like reading 10 levels above where I should have been. But it was all because my dad made sure, along with my mother, that I read and I read and I read and I wrote. And he always told me, when you write something, you have to paint a picture. And painting a picture is so easy. I don't know if it's I have an imagination that's not that's I see things in pictures. So it's very easy when I'm writing to paint a picture of what I'm talking about. So.
I got to ask you a quick question. Did you acquire any of your dad's singing skill?
No, not. In fact, my father tried to turn me into a singer when I was a kid, and I could not sing. And I was in the choir at church, And I did a few solos when I was like in 6th or 7th grade before my voice changed. And I mean, I could sing, but I don't know. I'm not afraid to go on the stage, but I couldn't sing. I did not acquire that trait from him.
Okay,
So.
fine. Do you ever think you wrote this wonderful book, and do you ever think of yourself as an author, like it's something you want to do in your life and write books and
To tell you the truth, I never thought of myself as an author. I always thought I would, I was a teacher, and I enjoyed writing like short stories with the kids in my class, and we would, make these stories up where I would go around the classroom and tell each kid they had to give us a sentence, and we would put them all together and try to make a story out of it. And at the beginning, they were very reluctant to do it, but by the time, a few months into the school year, they weren't afraid to talk and write, and we would make these crazy stories up. And I just thought that the kids, I tried to make learning enjoyable for them, and to make them not afraid to take a chance and do that. But no, the book happened just it was almost a kind of a thing that happened. I wrote it as a reaction to being very upset about something. I got a phone call from a friend of mine that someone that was very close to me when I was younger was very sick, and I didn't know what to say, or I gave her a call. I talked to her. I said, "You're going to be okay." And when I hung up with her, I was very upset. And the first thing I thought of was, I got to write my feelings down. So that's what started the book. I started writing little stories about people that influenced me as I was growing up. And then these little stories kind of all fell together and became a book. I didn't start out planning on doing that. It just kind of happened. It was I never got up one morning and said I'm going to write a book.
so you had all these emotional feelings
Right.
that you held over your friend being ill, and then you wrote this wonderful book. Everybody, this is Frank's book. It's called Dress Jeans, Disco, and Dating. It's wonderful, and I guarantee you won't put it down till you finish it. Now, let me ask you, when was the book published?
2019.
Okay.
Immediately the book started selling, and I did not know how to market the book. It was just all word of mouth, and it just, that summer it caught fire. It made the New York Times bestsellers list for 3 weeks in August of 2019. And then Linda Pellegrino from AM Buffalo called me. She had read the book, told me she loved the book, and do you want to come on AM Buffalo, which I did. And we talked about the book, and after that, that's when the book sales just went crazy.
Yeah.
I did a book signing at a restaurant on Hurdle Avenue called The Garage, and it was on a Friday night, and I just thought, 20 people were going to show up and want the book signed. And when I pulled up in front of the restaurant, it started at 6 o'clock. I got there about 5:30. There were people standing in line outside with the book in their hand, and I was like, what is going on? And I parked across the street. I walked across the street, and there were a few older ladies there, and they're like, you've got to sign this book. And I was just like, she goes, I loved it. I loved it. I grew up on the West Side. I'm Italian. So they were like my 3 aunts showing up there, and I signed it. And then I went in, and there were a couple hundred people there. And again, after that wave of signing every book and all those people, that's when it really started rolling and hit the New York Times bestsellers list.
So you got a taste of what it was like, this publishing experience.
Yeah. Well, to backtrack on the publishing experience, I wrote the book about 7 years before it was published. I went home after getting that phone call, and I just started writing little things, and it, like I said before, it all kind of came together into a book. But I wrote it, and I said, no one's going to want to read this. I was kind of, is it just me talking about my feelings? Would anyone else be interested in it? And so I kind of just let it sit. And my friend who is in the book, she got better, and I thought, well, it maybe made me feel good, but the book, it just sat for a good 5 years, and I never did anything with it. And then at the beginning of the book, everything that's in the book is a true story. I didn't make anything up. It's all just little things that happened, and it was so cool because it all fell together and became a book. And then a couple of, like 4 or 5 years later, her mom passed away. I went to the funeral, and then I said to myself, well, maybe I should go back to the book and write about the book, and change it to, I went to my friend's mother's funeral, which made me start thinking about when I was a kid and about growing up and who affected me, who made me a better person, who helped me along this crazy path of life. And then all of a sudden, I just got the inspiration. I said, "Okay, now I'm gonna make it a book," and that's what I did. So I put it all together, and it just flowed right out of me, and it was very simple to complete the book. Then.
Now, you have a lot of characters in the book, and they're all real life characters.
Oh yes,
tell us.
Okay, so all the people in the book are real people. Just to tell you a little bit about the publishing part of a book. Once I contacted a publisher, the publisher told me, I sent the book to someone in New York City, and they told me, well, you'll hear back from me in about 6 months. And I just pictured the guy sitting there with stacks of manuscripts and books all over his desk, and he's going to look at it, maybe he's not. But only 3 or 4 days later, he called me and said, I read your book and I loved it, and we'd be interested in getting involved in publishing it. So I couldn't believe it that he actually liked it, and I said, well, yeah, let's get the ball rolling here. So I had to sign all this paperwork. They sent it to me. Then I sent it back to them. I had to get the book copyrighted, which was not as easy as I thought it was going to be. And then the book was sent to the publisher's attorneys, and they put me on a Skype call with them, and there were 8 people sitting around on the screen, and they asked me, is this a real person? Is this person alive or dead? Is this a real place?
Wow.
And every single page that had a name in there, they basically told me you have to change the names of them. So I did. I changed my name from Frank to Nick. I thought Nick kind of sounded like Frank. It's kind of an Italian ethnic name, and it was a 1-syllable name. The last name Carnevali in the book that's my grandmother's maiden name. So I use that name, and a lot of places that were in the book are closed. So if a restaurant was already closed, they can't sue you. And it was a fun thing, like Casa de Pizza, which is still open. It's mentioned many times in the book, and they said, I went to them and said, look, I wrote this book. And they were more than happy to give me permission to use the name. Elmwood Taco, same thing, gave me permission. to use the name. So after I got through all these 8 attorneys asking me all these questions and changing everyone's name, I had to change my high school's name. I had to change both Cardinal Doherty and Lafayette High School's name. Then they said, okay, now we're safe that we're okay that we're not going to get sued, but now you need to send this book to your personal attorney so you don't personally get sued. So then I found an attorney. It was a girl, Lisa, who I went to college with. I gave her the book. She read it. She loved it. And I said, Lisa, I want to hire you as my attorney. And then she went through the book some more and weeded out a few more things. I want you to change this. I want you to change that. But after all that was done, then finally I got the book completed and it was ready for publishing. The publisher had artists working on the cover of the book, and I did not like any of them. As a result, I asked a friend of mine, Nancy McCarthy, who's an amazing artist, along with Eddie Dobashevitz, who was one of the first people to read the book. I was sitting with them saying, I don't like the covers they're making. So Nancy said, Frank, tell me a little bit about your book. So I told her about the book, and literally an hour later, she came back with the cover that's on there, and she put the Camaro on the cover. The Camaro's in the book. It was my first car, and she hit it perfect without even reading the book, just based on what I told her to do. So that made me a lot better, and everybody seems to love the cover of the book. If you look at the cover of the book, you know what the book's about.
Yes.
It's totally 70s, and I love the 70s. I collect things from the 70s. I can't drive by a garage sale without stopping, or a flea market, and I just continue to go around buying things from the 70s because that's the decade I really grew up in, and that's what interests me the most. So as you can see, there's a couple things sitting there. The smiley face bank. That's
Yes.
yeah. If you had one of those, you were one of the cool kids in the neighborhood. And the Weltron, that's a Weltron radio next to it with the 8-track in it.
Oh my goodness.
And it's called a space helmet. It was supposed to look like the astronauts, the Apollo astronauts' space helmet. So it pivots around, and really, if you had one of those, you were the coolest kid on the block. So, and then I liked all the liked all of the other things like mood rings and the pet rocks. I brought that today because I don't know how many people remember the pet rocks, but here's a pet rock. It was a fad in 75, 76. And yes, Vanessa, the tape still does play in that Weltron there. Mm-hmm. So I actually have a Weltron in each color and each style that they made at home. So I've got a collection of those. But that's the original one. And in my book, that's the coolest one because I remember seeing one of those and they were like $40 or $50, and that was way out of the price range that I could afford. So I always wanted one, and I started collecting them when I was probably in my 40s. Yes, so yeah, the pet rock. I distinctly remember sleeping over my cousin Joel's house as a kid, and I had never heard of a pet rock, and I was like, what's that? And then he did all the tricks with the pet rock. It came with a little brochure. Okay, so rock. Here's your nest that your rock lives in. Here's the rock. It was just a plain rock. And whoever invented this was a marketing genius because there were people buying these left and right. We looked up. This one still has the tag on it. It was $3.99. That's the equivalent of $25 right now. So people were paying $25 for a piece of cardboard with a rock in it. And this is the pet rock, the training of your pet rock. You know, how to get to know your rock and train your rock.
Oh, I love
and this
it.
was funny stuff that we were doing as kids. Simple obedience lessons to teach your rock. You know, teach your rock to come and sit down and roll over. And it was just fun things to do when you were a kid. And I don't know, it makes me smile when I look at this stuff because I think of, you know, a lot of people that are no longer with us that I enjoyed these things with. So it makes me smile. My cousin Joel, he was a character, and you know, when he's telling me he's got a rock and he's going to show me all the tricks his rock could do, it just was so funny. But you know, as I mentioned to Terry before we started, I was going to bring a mood ring today, and I forgot it.
Next time.
Next time I'll bring the mood ring. But I remember getting a mood ring, and we were getting ready to go to our first dance in high school. I was with my cousin Ronnie, and Ronnie is in my book. You know, he not only was he my cousin, but he was my best friend, and so we went out and bought mood rings right before our first dance, and we put the mood rings on, and my mood ring immediately turned black, and there was a little piece of paper that came with it that told you what the colors were, and it said "Love I Lack," and I will never forget that. He's sitting there on his bed, and I put the ring on, it turns black, and he said, "Oh, you're in trouble. It says Love I Lack."
He must have
So
laughed.
it was very funny. It just you know, good thoughts and good memories. So every time I look at the pet rock, or I think of my cousin Joel, or if I put the mood ring on, I think of my cousin Ronnie. So
Yes. Well, you know, growing up in an Italian household, I know how important family is. And I could relate to this next question that I'm going to ask you. Explain why family and relationships were so very important in this particular book.
well, I really wanted to write about the feelings that I had for my mom and dad that I really didn't express when I was a kid. And I was very close with my mom also. And again, going back to that first dance in high school, my mother was like everybody's mother on the block, and a lot of Italian moms are like that. They just make you. My mom was not Italian, but she was like most of the Italian moms I knew. She, all the kids would come to my house and sit at the kitchen table and talk with my mom for hours. They just were very. She just had a way of making people feel welcome, and I wanted to talk about that. And I wanted to talk about my father was one of 12 kids.
Wow.
My mother was an only child, so it was really weird. My mom had like no family, and my father, when I went to my grandmother's house, I had 70 first cousins. So it was
Wow.
first and second cousins. And my grandmother, on Christmas, you couldn't even get in her house. It was standing room only. So I wanted to talk about my grandmother, and I was very proud that my grandmother and grandfather came from Italy with nothing, and they were able to take care of their family, and they were very proud Italians. I'm very proud of my Italian heritage also, and I just wanted to talk about people I don't think people really realize that if they do something nice for a kid or show a kid a little attention, that might and that might affect the kid for the rest of their lives. And I wanted to talk about those people. Like in the book, I worked at a restaurant. It was my first job, upstairs, downstairs on Elmwood Avenue. And I got the job when I was about 16 years old, and I was a busboy. And I knew nothing about bussing tables or how to react to people. That's a tough business, being in a restaurant. And I became friends with the bartender, who was an older guy. And he meets me, and he asked me what my last name was. I told him, and he starts going down the list of all my uncles. He knew all my uncles, and he said, "Who's Danny? Who's Joe? Who's Paul? They're my uncle. They're my uncle." And he goes, "Your name's Frank, so Frank has to be your dad." I go, "Yeah, Frank's my dad." And he's like, "Okay, I'm going to take care of you." So I became best friends with this guy when I was 16, who was he was in his 70s. He was 75 years old, at least. He had retired, and he taught me how to treat people. A lot of times people are complaining about the food, complaining about the service, complaining about that. And I was just a 16-year-old kid. But I wanted to talk about Phil in the book. Phil was one of my favorite people I ever met in my life. He was probably the first person that treated me like I was an adult when I was 16. And I just thought he was such a cool guy. And in fact, Diane English, the girl that did Murphy Brown, she's from Buffalo. She used to go into, Phil owned Bull Feathers when it was called the Elmwood Lounge many years ago. And she named the bartender on Murphy Brown Phil, after Phil. So Phil had an effect on her, and he just was a great guy, and he taught me. I was closing the bar when I was 16 years old, taking the money, walking down Elmwood Avenue, going to his house, and he gave me responsibilities, and he believed in me, and I wanted to talk about that because he was a major effect on my life. Another guy that's in the book, Donnie Prime was his name. He was an older than me. He was in his late 20s. And I got to know him when he owned a little hot dog stand on Elmwood Avenue. And he was a cool guy. He had long hair, real handsome, lots of girlfriends. And I just thought he was a cool guy. And I met him when I was probably 12 years old. And we became friends. And I looked up to him, and there's a couple very funny chapters in the book relating to him and how he treated me and taught me. He took me out on my 18th birthday, and it was a really amazing night, and that's chronicled in the book as well. So I just wanted to talk about people that affected me and helped me and turned me into the person I am. So that's another motivation for why I wrote the book.
Well, in the book, it's very prevalent in your book as to why family's important.
Right.
You want to just touch upon that for
Yeah,
us?
my grandma, my mother, my father. Another thing I kind of started to talk about it, but I didn't really finish. My mother was a chaperone at the first dance I went to in high school, and I was like beside myself. What's my mother doing? She's going to ruin it for me. I'm not going to be able to talk to any girls. And so I made up all these rules for my mom, what she had to do at the dance. And again, it's in the book. But I made my mother drop my cousin Ronnie and us off. We had our mood rings on. We didn't bring our pet rock though to the dance, but I wanted to have her drop us off, and she had to wait 5 minutes before she could walk in the dance. And I made up all these rules for her, and no taking pictures, no, stay away from us when we're talking. And as I was going through the night, I realized what what a jerk I was being to my mother and that I shouldn't have been doing that. And we went out to, I don't know if you remember Henry's Hamburgers.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so there was a
Yes.
Henry's Hamburgers in the lot right next to where Cardinal Doherty was. It's the post office on Hurdle Avenue now, but there was a big Henry's there. So the three of us, my cousin Ronnie, and my mother and I went there. We ordered our hamburgers, our strawberry milkshake, and our French fries, and I sat down and I was looking around, and the whole restaurant was filled with kids that had just left the dance, and they were all there with their parents. And I'm looking at them, and then all of a sudden it clicked in my head that, wow, I really was being mean to my mother, and I shouldn't have done that to her. And I felt that all of a sudden I felt like I grew up a little, and I realized, the world doesn't revolve around you, and you really shouldn't think that it does. So that night after we dropped off Ronnie, I apologized to my mother, and I felt like I grew up a little at that moment. I wasn't a self-centered little kid anymore, and I started to see things a little different. And that's another thing I wanted to write about, my relationship with my mother and how much she meant to me. So.
Well, I know what my reaction to this book was, and I'd like to know what people say to you. What are their reactions after you've given them a book, or what do they say? How do they react?
I've gotten emails and correspondence from people all over the place. A woman in Australia read the book, and she told me she loved it and could relate to it. So when I first wrote the book, I said, are only people from Buffalo going to like it? Because I talk so much about Buffalo things in the book. But it transcends that. I think what people are getting out of it is that this kid was going through life. The kid was me, and he's making decisions, and people are influencing him, and he's realizing it, and he's acknowledging what made him a better person. And if you really listen to adults, someone said, when you're 25 years old, all of a sudden your mother and father start becoming smart, because you don't want to listen to them when you're a kid, and then you realize how smart they are as you get older. But people have walked up to me and said it's an amazing love story. Other people have come up to me and said, you made me cry when you talked about your grandmother, your relationship with your mother, your relationship with your father. Different relationships, or different people saw the relationships differently than I did. And I had discussions with people about how I tried to always do the right thing when I was a kid. And some people told me, well, you should have done some of the wrong things. You couldn't have really been like that. And I said, well, yeah, I really was like that. So that's a lot of people want to know about who this girl is. The guys all say, I want to see a picture of the girl that you were attracted to in the book. And most of the girls say, what a beautiful love story that was. And how you loved a lot of people growing up. And I just think that was special. So those are all the different reactions I got.
Well, I know how important this book is to you, and it's probably your favorite in the whole world. But what's one little snippet in this book that really touches your heart? One favorite spot in this book that you just love?
I would have to say it was when I went to Henry's with my cousin, and Henry's after the dance, and I realized that, no one's going to ever love you more than your mother and father do, right? And I realized that, and I would say that scene or that chapter in the book and the chapter that I get the most feedback about is chapter 16 in the book, when my grandmother died. And I didn't know how to react, and I was trying to ask people what what are you supposed to do? I was 16 years old. No one that I cared about or knew really close had died, and I would say I got the most reaction and the most feedback from chapter 16, again, which is when my grandmother died, and my interaction with my friend who was 16 years old. She didn't know how to react to someone dying either, and our conversation back and forth at the funeral home was the word a ton of people said it was so tender and so real that you had that conversation with Stephanie and Nick had that conversation about dying when they didn't know anything about dying, and they were trying to figure out what dying meant. And that was very touching. But if I could, I'd like to read
Yes, please.
just a couple chapters or a couple paragraphs here from from that chapter with my mother, and I can explain it better reading it than I can talking about it. So to set the stage again, I'm in Henry's Hamburgers after my first high school dance where disco was king. So Ronnie and I stuffed a few quarters and waited for our order to stuffed in a few quarters in the jukebox and waited for our order to arrive. The songs Disco Duck, Play That Funky Music, Low Down, and anything by Casey and the Sunshine Band were played over and over again as we waited for our food. When the order finally came, I looked around and saw all the kids from the dance at a hamburger joint enjoying a special, innocent time with their parents. High school is such a confusing period in your life, but right then and there, it was perfectly clear to me about my feelings for my mother and cousin sitting with me. This is what it's all about, I told myself. I also told myself that if you make the time to notice, all the really important things in life are really within your reach if you remember to take hold of them. I made my mind up to grab a hold and never let go of the feelings that were most important to me. And at that moment, in a loud and noisy hamburger joint, I decided I didn't care if my mother crashed all the rest of my high school dances. In fact, I thought it was kind of cool to have her around. We ate food, tried as hard as we could to suck the thickest strawberry shakes known to mankind through our striped straws, and listened to great disco songs. We dunked our fries in ketchup and vinegar, and most importantly, we spent time with each other like we always had. But right then, it all seemed a little different. Something had changed me for the better. I was starting to grow up and realize the important things for the first time. After we dropped Ronnie off, and just before we pulled up in front of our house, I told my mom the rules for the dance were canceled, and that I was no longer embarrassed to have my mother at any school dance I went to. I also told her I was sorry for making the dumb rules up in the first place. She hugged me and started to cry and told me how much she loved me. What I wouldn't give to have just one more Henry's Hamburger with my mom right now. So, another thing that people said to me that they were very surprised that a guy wrote about his feelings like that, that they were surprised that a guy would, talk about dating and what happens when a girl drops you and treats you bad, or how you feel when you see the girl that you're really falling in love with walking with some other guy. And I just said I was going to write my feelings, and I did. And I think that's what makes the book so real, that I'm I think it's an honest look at a guy's feelings from the 70s that maybe hasn't been written about before. So,
Another question I have for you. Have you had any desire or any interest in, like, let's say, writing a screenplay?
yes, I have. I've probably heard from 100 different people, and emails and Facebook. My Facebook page, people message me as they're reading the book and tell me and ask me questions about things, and I always respond immediately because what a flattering thing to happen to you, that somebody's reading your book and contacting you and talking to you as they're reading the book. It's every time it happens, it's a great feeling, and like I said, over 100 times after people have read the book, the first thing they say is, "This book should be a movie." So, I had never written a screenplay. I thought about it. I bought a book on Amazon about how to write a screenplay. I read it and I said, "Okay, I'm going to give it a shot." So I started writing the screenplay. It took about 2 years to do, and I finished it, and again, I didn't know what to do with it. I kept reading it over and over again, and I said to myself, I think this is really good, but, what do I do with it? Who do I give it to? And I started giving it to a few people. There's a lot of people in Buffalo making movies now.
Oh, yes.
So, as you know,
Yes.
Terry's in every movie in Buffalo, I gave it to a couple of people, and the feedback was very good. So we have a mutual friend, Andy Morin, owns a movie studio on Niagara Street,
Yes.
and he's an amazing cinematographer and producer and just an all-around great guy. And I gave the screenplay to him, and he had already read the book, and he told me he thought the screenplay was better than the book. And let's get this going. So we are right now in the process of filming 7 little sequences from the screenplay, putting them together into a proof of concept trailer, which is a trailer that you put together to try to raise money for the production of an actual movie. So we've shot 3 scenes of it already. It's been absolutely amazing. Andy is so talented and sees things and moves. He can move a book this much, and then all of a sudden
Move it back.
or move it back, and it visually looks amazing. So we've shot 3 scenes. I've got. We shot the first scene where Nick sees his
The girl.
Stephanie the first time, and it actually happened at my cousin's 8th grade graduation party, and in the book, Nick sees her as she's walking over to put a record. Here's a funny thing. In the book, I said, put a 45 on the record. A bunch of people didn't know what a 45 was. They thought I was talking about a gun.
Exactly.
So
Different age, different time.
yeah. So so we recreated that scene, and it was great. I actually, after I saw the scene, I had it step back, and I walked out in front of the house that we were shooting at, and I was like, this is overwhelming me, because this happened to me in 1976. Then I wrote about it, And now I was watching the same thing happen again, and it was so cool. And I just was like, I can't believe that this is actually happening, where I'm seeing this. We did another little scene at Delaware Park with Nick and Stephanie just talking a little. We're gonna that's gonna be the final part of the trailer. And yesterday we did a little scene with a bratty little sister, giving Nick a hard time when he goes to pick up Stephanie for his first date with her, which was very funny. The little girl we had was a perfect bratty little sister, and the looks she was giving Nick, we were all laughing. It was amazing. But both in the book and in the book and in the movie, a very important scene takes place on Elmwood Avenue across from the Neon Tango dancers.
Yes.
And give everybody a little history in that. That sign went up in 1981. And when I was a kid, I would walk to Elmwood Taco, get a few tacos, and there were park benches across the street on Bidwell Parkway, and I would just sit there and look up at that sign, and I could sit there and watch that sign for hours, and I made a lot of, if something was bugging me and I needed to go for a walk or whatever, I would walk and sit there and stare at that sign, and that sign's got a very special place in my heart. The sign was taken down about 10 years ago when they started working on the building there on Bidwell and Elmwood. The city of Buffalo spent $40,000 to rehab it and restore it. They put it back up on the building, and they plugged it in for 10 minutes and unplugged it, and it's been sitting for 5 years without it being turned on. So I made a few comments to a few people, and they said, well, you should contact the councilman. So I contacted Joel Ferrolato, and he's the councilman for that area. And just to let everybody know, we've started the ball rolling to get the funds to have the sign turned on. And hopefully it's going to be on in the next few months. And we'll film our scene. The opening of the trailer is Nick sitting across the street looking up at the sign, and I hope that I can get we can get it on, the sign turned on, and have it immediately when you see that sign, you're going to know we're talking about the 70s, early 80s, and I don't think I was the only one that ever sat across from that sign and looked up at it and just said, wow, this thing is amazing. And it was so calming, and it's just an amazing piece of Buffalo that everybody should be enjoying it now, because there's kids now that have never seen that sign.
Tell us about the sign. What is it?
It's three.
Exactly.
It's three neons of a girl and a guy dancing a tango, and as it moves across, it gives the appearance that the sign is actually moving, and it's the colors are amazing. They're bright blues and bright reds, and it's, to me, like I said, I could sit there and stare at that sign for an hour and just look at it and watch it move, and it's got a special place in my heart. And I know I'm not the only person, because I've talked with many people about getting the sign lit, and everybody's like, start a GoFundMe page. I'll help out with that. And I was just like, okay, we're gonna get. And when I told the councilman that, he said, don't worry about it. We'll get the money. That sign should be lit up. It's a part of Buffalo that everybody should be able to see and appreciate it. So
Yes. Well, how did you come across these actors and actresses for this little trailer that you're putting together? Where did you find them?
Uh, it was a friend of mine owns the Story Garage on Niagara Street,
Hmm.
and Neil Gerard is his name. And I was sitting talking with him. He was asking me about the he had read the book, and he was asking me about the screenplay and how how was it going, and a friend of his walked in, sat down, and he got involved in this in talking with us, and he said that a friend of his had a son who wanted to be in the and he wanted to be an actor, and he had the look, he had long hair. So I contacted his mother, and we when he walked in for us to meet him, I as soon as I saw him, I said, "Oh my God, that's my cousin Ronnie," and it was, and then he was perfect, and he brought us a couple other kids. A friend of my daughter's had her godson was in Gabrini,
Yeah.
and I got the picture of him, and I said, "Oh, he looks like another kid, Jack." And so he came on board, and we were looking for someone to play Nick, and then Nick, who is one of the boys who's the actor, said his mom called me and said, I think I found Nick from the screenplay, and she sent me his picture, and he came, and he's been perfect.
Great.
Finding Stephanie was a little bit more difficult. We had a couple girls lined up that didn't work out. One went to California and was in a television show, and it didn't work out. Another girl moved to New York City, and then again, Nick's mom, who we couldn't have done it without Renee. She said she has a friend who has a daughter that's very active in drama, and she came to visit us
And
at the
she-
studio. She got out of the car. I looked at her and
And
I
was
said, "There's Stephanie,"
Wow.
and we. So that's how we got them, and we've. They all looked the part. Matt Santora helped us out on.
Excuse me, Frank, we're running out of time,
Okay, I see that.
unfortunately.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask you if you'd come back.
Oh, I definitely would
Because
come
I
back.
would like to find out from you how writing this book is different than writing a screenplay.
Oh, it's
I'd
definitely
like you to
different.
talk about that for me, more about the neon sign, and how furthermore you're working on your trailer and how it's coming along. So I'd like to maybe on my next show come back and continue on with some questions, because this is very interesting, and I can't thank you enough. And again, I hope you all tune into the show, talk about everything with Terry and Frank Maraschiello. Thank you so much for
Well, thank you, Terry.
coming here and
Thank
looking
you.
at all the stuff you
Yeah,
brought in your
thank you.
book. And he's going to come back, and we're going to talk to him some more. So send in your questions, and he'll answer them for you next time. Again, I want to thank you all, and I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday, Christmas, and stay well, stay safe, and you know what? Always keep a smile on your face and think how lucky you are to get up in the morning. And that's important. See you later. Bye.